Hey folks, Rob with Two Guys in a Ride, and oh boy, look at this beauty we got behind us. I'm in beautiful Brandon, Mississippi today, and we are with Bob. Bob, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us about this spectacular rolling piece of art you got right here.
Well, thank you, Rob. My name is Bob, and I've been a car collector, restorer, rebuilder, whatever, for years and years, and I'm an old guy, so those are a lot of years. Anyhow, what we're looking at here today is a 1955 Imperial. And this Imperial came to me about 7 years ago through my dentist, who happened to be at a car show, and I was at that time driving my goldenrod 55 Thunderbird that he just had to have. And I said, it's really not for sale. And he insisted and pushed, and the next day he came to my house driving this Imperial, and the first thing out of his mouth is, would you consider a trade? And I said, well, I wasn't really considering anything until you brought it up, but I have a bad back and a 61 Corvette, which is very difficult to get in and out of. And I sat in the Imperial and it was like stepping into a ballroom. Oh. I said, you know, that Imperial is starting to look pretty attractive to me. I said, what do you want to do? He said, well, you tell me. You seem to know the cars, I don't. And I said, well, you know, there's probably 50 people that buy that 55 Thunderbird to one that would even know what a 55 Imperial is. I said, but if you want to trade even, I'll trade you even. And that's what we did.
Well, now tell me then, on the hierarchy, I've got an idea, but tell me, how did Imperial fit in with the Chrysler brand of vehicles? Because I've heard people say, well, it's a Chrysler Imperial, and then I hear purists want to like put duct tape over their mouth because it's not a Chrysler Imperial.
Correct. 55 was the first year that Chrysler Corporation made the Imperial a standalone division. And it's got a few, I mean, if you really look at the car, like I do, I know that the body is shared by Chrysler. I know that even the Senior DeSotos share the same body. The motor is a 331 HEMI, and on the valve covers it says Chrysler Power. So we know it wasn't divorced from the Chrysler family, but anyhow, it had a lot of unique features that stood it alone from the other Chrysler products. This particular car has a few options on it. One of them is the fog lights, which I think Rob has captured already. It also has a few doodads on it, like the prismatic mirror on the dashboard.
Okay, but let me. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but really quickly here, I'll show this Let's finish the story on this prismatic mirror and exactly what it did. But then I want to get back to the hierarchy of where the Imperial fit in. So let's talk about that. We're still recording, but talk about this. What was this about? What this prismatic mirror?
Yeah, well, back in the late 40s and 50s, there were a lot of cars that had outside visors, and the traffic signals were very difficult to see.
Okay.
And so you look into that, and it points you straight up to the traffic signals overhead.
Oh, so instead of sitting in the driver's seat and almost laying down over to the passenger side or craning your neck around the outside visor, which this does have a visor, you can see it here. So that allows you to sit upright and look not like you were contorted and watch the stoplight.
The traffic signals back then were right where you stopped. Today, you stop back from the signals.
Okay.
And so you were sitting underneath the signals, so they were almost impossible to see without that prismatic mirror.
Okay. But a cool little quirk about that, you were telling me this is a Chrysler Imperial branded product, but that little prismatic deal that was made as an option was actually made by?
It was made by the Guide Company, which is a division of General Motors. In fact, my 61 Corvette has Guide T3 headlights in it.
Oh, how about that? So for all you Mopar purists, there's a GM product on this car. So I can see hundreds of Mopars going up for sale right now. But let's go back real quick, briefly. So the Imperial was the pinnacle of Chrysler family automobiles that would have then competed on the American stage with Cadillac and Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
exactly.
And looking at it in profile, well, I can see how.
And if you see all the little amenities like the armrest and the power window switches and the interior, all of this car is original. It's got 47,000 actual miles on it, so nothing's been changed.
47, not 147,
no,
but 47,000.
47,000. But
let's look at that.
The interior, the white part of this is leather.
Okay.
And the gold part of it is all nylon brocade.
I see that.
And it's all original.
And I love the two-tone dash.
And the gear shift for 1955 for all Chrysler products with an automatic transmission was on the dashboard. The year before, they were on the steering column, and the year after, they were push button.
Right. Okay. Love the clock. Love just the two-tone dash, and then of course, after this, the Chrysler branded family dashboards just got crazy, crazy designs, crazy looks. Really, really cool in how inventive they were with their dashboards and the textures and the electroluminescent domes and this, that, or the other.
Well, the other thing Chrysler did is made their brake pedals about a third wider than Ford or General Motors ever did.
Yeah, look at that! Wow.
And so you can catch the brake pedal with both feet.
Right. Because this, what was this drums all the way around?
It was drums all the way around.
And but I imagine it's power brakes.
Yeah, power steering and power brakes were standard.
Okay.
The power windows and power seat were options.
Is that right?
And you could get factory air conditioning, although it was more of a wish and a promise than it was effective. This one does not have it.
And the air conditioning would it have? I see two little vents back here. Is that where?
Air conditioning, actually, this has got a rear seat speaker. That would be gone.
I see.
And the rear outlet, the air conditioning outlet, the evaporator was in the trunk, as were Cadillacs and Lincolns at the time. And but you couldn't have a backseat rear speaker.
But I always thought it was so funny that the AC pumped from the back seat to the front, and it was the driver who probably needed the most cooling, and he got the leftover warmed up air, and the people in the back probably were wearing a parka because they were so chilled, and he was still up front sweating.
Well, Lincoln, particularly with the Continental Mark II in 56 and 57, that was the only option that Lincoln had, or the Mark II. They didn't want to call it a Lincoln. It was a Continental.
Right.
But it had it back here, but it had funnels up.
Yes.
And the outlets were over your head.
Yeah, over your head.
And so you could freeze to death, particularly like me.
Right.
Had no insulation.
You're not thinning. You just grew too tall for your hair.
That's it. So. Yeah. My dad had a 55 Pontiac Star Chief convertible with air.
Oh, okay.
And he had a 54 Pontiac Star Chief sedan, and the air conditioning worked beautifully. The unique thing about a 54 Pontiac with air conditioning is the fact that Pontiac was the first to ever put the whole system under the hood of the car.
Oh.
So it had nothing in the trunk.
Okay.
Even though Cadillac did.
Right.
And Lincoln and so on and so forth.
Speaking of trunk, can we take a look at the size of yours? I think you said you removed all the dead bodies prior to me filming.
I did. And
we did find HEMI Hoffa, by the way.
Yeah, we took the Volkswagens out. But anyhow,
and this again. Now this would have been an original. This would have been a stock wheel cover.
Correct.
But you have the Kelsey Hayes. But when you ordered the Kelsey Hayes, you didn't get 5 Kelsey Hayes. You got 4.
Got 4
with
a steel wheel.
With a steel wheel.
And I found the hubcap.
You had I
found that at a swap meet, which is correct for the car.
Okay. Wow. You know what? I mentioned this as you were backing out of the garage a few minutes ago. These taillights are absurd.
They are that.
They're just, it's like, oh, they designed the car, and it's like, oh my gosh, we forgot taillights. Well, here, let's just tape these to the tail end.
But Imperial, a few years later, did the standalone headlights too.
Yes, they did.
And it was almost like, oh, we forgot.
But then the trunk also had the toilet seat.
Yeah, the toilet seat. Yeah, that's what car guys call it.
Yes. And folks, we've done a late model.
Unique thing here is.
There you go. Yep.
Believe me, it's not if you want to get gas, it's when.
Well, with that HEMI, it'll pass everything except a gas station.
Gas station. It's probably about 8 to 10, depending on how you.
And that's not bad. That's
not too bad.
But you think about the hidden gas cap there, and that was kind of all the rage in the 50s, was hiding that.
Hiding
the Cadillacs had them.
Yeah.
The 57, 56, 55, 67 Chevys had it on the left little
56 was
fender.
the first year
56
for the Chevy.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
55 still had the
the door on the side.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But yeah, so that was something else that I really love the eagle, love the crest, everything, the script Imperial with the crown. But again, and then you got the exhaust coming out of the bottom of the bumper. That was a Cadillac thing. That was seemed to be a thing that was happening in styling and stuff at the time. But again, I mean, tell me, folks, that those taillights just don't look like a afterthought. That the first three rolled off the line and someone paid attention. Oh my God, we forgot to add taillights, and somebody just came up and screwed them on.
I've got models of some Chrysler concept cars.
Okay.
And in '53, they did a concept car with those taillights.
Okay.
Somebody decided 2 years later it needed to be in a production car, so that's what. And you know, the '62 had that, but 52.
52. Yeah.
Pardon me, '56.
Oh.
But it had.
Look at those.
It had fins, and the light was slightly different, but nonetheless. And then they dropped it, and then they came back in '62 with the LeBarons, and they put it back on, and everybody loved them. And in '63, they took them away again.
Right, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, talking about 8 to 10 miles per gallon and talking about passing everything except the gas station, can we take a look under the hood?
Sure.
All right. Any idea on horsepower rating of this vehicle at the time?
250.
250, okay. Okay. Stout engine, just overly engineered, overly built.
Yeah. And they use the same engine block for many years.
Sure.
The following year, it went from a 331 cubic inch engine to a 354.
Okay.
And from there to a 392. So
there's
the
quite
engine
a bit of meat on that block.
Absolutely. And the block alone weighs 800 pounds. So it's a real boat anchor.
Now, one of the cool things you pointed out, and I've heard this before, but I didn't pay attention when you first opened the hood earlier, is behind the generator is your power. It's your power steering
reservoir
is run off of the generator. Look at that.
Yeah.
So does that mean then when you had to replace the power steering that you had to replace the generator, or it just bolted on the back?
It just bolts on the back.
But it was so basically a pass through from the front drive belts to that.
Yeah, car manufacturers they take the easy way out, and sometimes the most profitable way to save money, and that's one of them. And for instance, my Corvette is a '61, and the tachometer rides off the back of the generator on it.
Really?
And my '63 Thunderbird has hydraulic windshield wipers that operate off the power steering pump.
Huh.
So, the engineers are sitting there saying, hey, Herbie, you got to cut cost here. So they would do whatever was expedient.
Right. You can't put a separate pump in or this, that, or the other.
Or the bracket. If you're going to build 1 million cars and a bracket costs $7, that's $7 million. We don't think of it in those terms.
You're right.
The car also has optional town and country horns.
Okay, and the difference with the town and country horns was?
Is the pitch. That the town horns are a higher pitch. The country horn has a long trumpet on it, and it's a much deeper tone.
Okay, now I'm seeing the name Autolite, so wasn't that a Ford brand? Or a supplier?
Autolite supplied both Chrysler and Ford.
Okay.
Many things in this car.
Well, I was gonna pick at you about having GM and Ford pieces on a Chrysler.
Got an Autolite carburetor in it.
Oh,
and
is that right?
My Thunderbird has an Autolite.
So is that a 2-barrel?
This one's it's a 4-barrel.
It is a 4-barrel because you got to feed this beast. And again, this would have been top of the line car, so of course you expect it to have that performance.
Yeah, but at Autolite, I learned that lesson too. I didn't pay attention to it till I bought this or got this car. And I said, "Oh my goodness, look at all the interchange here."
Right, right. But at that time, it was a little different. It wasn't necessarily the divisions owned by certain corporations.
Yeah.
They just made the best of that item. So the manufacturers went out and
it was cheaper to buy it from them than it was to create it
exactly.
themselves.
And they were reputable brands, so it actually was a selling point. It wasn't a demerit.
Well, it's kind of and years ago, like General Motors, they would be doing so much business with a particular supplier, they'd buy the company.
Yeah.
I say, it's kind of like that prismatic mirror being a guide product.
Well, and that way, they just like Henry Ford did when he built the Rouge plant for manufacturing. He did that because it was on the Rouge River where he could bring in everything. And what he did, he was vertically integrated. And it wasn't, he always said, well, it was supply issues. He wanted to make sure he had constant supply. Henry Ford wanted to make sure he could control the cost.
Correct.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, years ago, I used to restore Model A Fords, and even the floorboards had to be a certain size for the parts coming in.
Yes,
according to Henry.
Do you have a favorite memory with this car?
Not really. I have a bad memory about it.
Well, okay, let's share that.
Friends of mine, which I couldn't turn down's daughter was getting married.
Okay.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It'd be a great wedding car. I said, well, it's not. It's a 2-door.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't want the bride in her dress crawling out the back.
Yeah, well, they said, we just want it as a backdrop for pictures.
Okay.
I said, that'll work. So I go to the venue where they were having the reception. And everything's fine. They're doing what they said, pictures by the car and so on. Well, it's time to go. They want me to drive the bride and groom out of the venue, down the street to a parking lot where their car was parked. I said, that's fine. What they didn't tell me is that everybody at the wedding and reception lined the driveway, and they had these things that shot confetti. And I was picking confetti, and still, about 2 weeks ago, I found another piece because the windows were down, and the whole car, I'm coming home from the thing, and the confetti's flying out of the window.
It looks like you've been in a ticker tape parade, huh?
Nice people. Didn't hurt the car. Just aggravating.
just a surprise, but well, that's a memory, all right. That's a memory.
Yeah.
I said, well, you know what? I got to tell you, this is a very, very nice car.
Thank you.
And I know, I mean, you would say, oh, there's a chip here, there's a ding there, but you know what? People are going to see this video and they're going to watch. And folks, comment down below. Let us know what you think about this car. And I'm after we step off camera, I'm still just going to walk around and show you a few more things on it. But it's absolutely spectacular. It has a presence about it, and that is really cool. So I bet a gas station fill up is an hour for you to handle because you have so many folks coming up asking you, what is that?
It always attracts attention. No
yes, it
question
does.
about it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
She's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, Rob.
Awesome.
You take care.
Thank you.
Okay.